Hi guys, I'm Rick from Summerfield Zoo, and we're going to give you a little talk about different animals today, but first we're going to tell you a little bit about our zoo. So we are located in Belvidere, Illinois. We are open seasonally, so we're open from April till October, usually every weekend, but during the time that school is off, we're also open on Wednesdays through Fridays. Right now we're in the middle of our Christmas town at Summerfield Zoo, so that's also a lot of fun. We have the reindeer out, Santa, the elves, all kinds of fun Christmas activities. We have a lot of different types of animals. We have some endangered species. We have a lot of rescue animals that come from different places. And we hope that you're gonna come out and visit us and enjoy the animals and help the zoo keep going. Right now we are visiting with Fiona. Fiona is our two-toed sloth that we have here at the zoo. So there are actually two-toed sloths and three-toed sloths. Very, very interesting animals. They all come from South America, both different species. Besides the number of toes or claws on the front legs of this animal, they are very similar in their size, their diet, their location, habits. They are different hair colored, but these guys are mostly arboreal animals, which means they're going to live in the trees most of their life. So the sloth is the world's slowest mammal. They're still faster than some people might imagine, but they are the world's slowest mammal. So because of that, the sloth has very few self-defense mechanisms. So the only one they really have is camouflage. So in the zoo, they don't look like they do in the wild. So a wild sloth looks much different. They're more of a green color, and they don't actually change color themselves. What they do is they're able to grow moss and algae, all kinds of plant life all over their hair. So that's going to camouflage this animal up in the canopy of the rainforest where they live. So each and every hair on a sloth has this little groove running down it. So the groove helps all those plants attach to the animal. So the best bet for these guys to stay alive is to be quiet and to be green. They do have a few predators out there in the wild. They have got jaguars, they have large snakes. One of the biggest predator for this animal, however, is actually a bird. So the harpy eagle lives in South America. They are the world's largest eagle. They do have an 8-foot wingspan. They have talons as big as a grizzly bear's claw. And as strong as these guys grip, a harpy will just snatch them right out of a tree and fly off with the sloth. Now our sloth is also a solitary animal. I know many people think all animals are happy living in a large group, but the sloth doesn't feel that way. They like to live all by themselves. So the only time a sloth actually lives with other sloths is the time period when a mom has a baby riding directly on her body. So they do like to hang out all by themselves and eat plants. So in the wild, a sloth is mostly what's called a foliivore, which means they're going to eat lots and lots of leaves. So they eat vines also, some of the heavy stems. So sloths do have some very big sharp teeth in their mouth for ripping into those vines and those different kinds of hard stems. They will eat a little bit of fruit, but a sloth will not be able to eat large amounts of fruit, because they are what's called a foregut fermenter, meaning they will ferment food in one of the chambers of their stomach. So a sloth actually has 4 different chambers in their stomach. One of them does ferment food, so too many fruits, not great for that. And the sloth also has the world's slowest digestive system. So anything our sloth friends eat, it does take them an entire month to digest it. So these guys, because of that, they typically only poop about once a week. Now, what we call that sloth poop day, and it is a big event for a sloth. So firstly, pooping is the one thing the sloth will not do in a tree. They do pretty much everything else up in the trees. They will eat there, they will sleep there, they will give birth in the trees, just not poop. So what they do is they come all the way down to the bottom of the tree. They kind of hug the tree trunk in an upright fashion, and they do their little sloth poop dance first. They do their business, do another little dance, and then they go back up in the trees. So sloths are very, very strong animals. You might not think that because they're just going to sleep all day, but they're very strong. So they do grip about 3 times more than a person can grip. All that strength is for climbing around in the trees, of course. But sloths can't spend every single moment up in the trees. Sometimes they do have to go to ground, whether it's just to go to another tree that has more food or to find a mate, whatever. But when they do travel on the ground, it's very awkward and cumbersome. It kind of looks like somebody dragging their body around by their wrists. So when a sloth travels on the ground, a little easier path is, if there is water nearby, a sloth will get right in and they swim. And when they swim, it will be 3 times faster than dragging your body along on the ground. So these guys have an incredible amount of air power. So when they swim, fun fact is, a sloth can actually hold their breath under the water way longer than a dolphin can. Imagine that. So dolphins can only hold their breath for 10 minutes. They have to come up for air every 10 minutes or they will drown. Now a sloth can actually hold their breath up to 40 incredible minutes. Pretty amazing feat for these guys. Now sloths were not blessed with great eyesight. Just the whole species did not develop great eyesight because most of their life is spent way up in the canopy. So that means they are in the shade most of the time. They have leaves in front of their face most of the time, so they never really look too far in the distance. And then physically, the sloth's eyes lack cones. So that means the sloth is colorblind, and direct sunlight does bother their eyes quite a bit. So to make up for this, a sloth has great sense of smell. So if you look up close with your sloth, they're going to have kind of a wet appearance to their nose, similar to a dog who also has great sense of smell. So that enhances that sense of smell. They do have kind of an average sense of hearing though, just basically about like ours. Now, when sloths have babies, sloths are also very slow to have their babies too. A baby sloth typically will only come around about once every 3 years, because to start with, the pregnancy of a sloth is just over 11 months. And then the female usually will not rebreed when she has a baby hanging on her body, and then you add another 11 months after she's had that baby on her body for about 10 months. So you're looking at close to 3 years between baby sloths. Now when baby sloths do arrive, the female does give birth way up in the treetops to one single baby at a time. And the babies are born fully furred. They have their eyes open. They actually have their teeth when they're born too. Baby sloths also are born with claws. So as soon as they're born, they can immediately latch on and hang on to their mother. They will only nurse for about the first month with mom, but they will stay riding on their mother for about 10 months, just for protection from predators and learning what kind of foods are good to eat for them. Now the sloth is also an excellent napper. Sloths usually will sleep anywhere from 18 to 20 hours out of a day. It's not going to be one single stretch though. They pretty much spend their life taking big long naps, waking up, eating for a while, taking another big long nap. Now most of the time when a sloth will sleep, they will curl up in a fork of a tree. But the sloth is also able to latch on with all 4 legs and just hang suspended and sleep at the same time, because each and every leg has a locking mechanism in it. So they lock that in place and they just fall asleep suspended like that. Now the sloth, when they do grow moss and algae all over their body in the wild, that stuff will naturally attract lots and lots of bugs. So a wild sloth can literally have hundreds of bugs on their body at once. Now, they even have one bug that is named after the sloth. It is the sloth moth. The sloth moth spends its entire life around a sloth, but they form a symbiotic relationship, so they do help one another. So the sloth moth will actually eat a lot of moss and algae growing on the sloth so it doesn't become overgrown on the animal. And then in turn, the only place that moth will ever lay eggs is in sloth droppings. It's kind of like, nobody will ever look for my eggs in here. Now, sloths are naturally very slow animals. There's several reasons that they're slow. First, the sloth has kind of got a very low metabolism. They have a very low energy diet, and they're also trying to be very careful as they move around in the trees because a sloth doesn't want to grab a branch that will break and make them fall to the ground. Even though the sloth is a very careful animal when they're crawling around in the trees, they say a wild sloth will drop out of a tree usually about once a week. But don't worry about that because they found sloths can survive up to 100-foot drops. Now, the sloth we see today is nothing like the original sloths. Millions of years ago, they were called mega sloths. They were all huge animals. Depending on the era, they could range anywhere from the size of a bear all the way up to the size of an elephant. Now, at that size, obviously, they're not going to be tree sloths. They were all ground sloths at that point. But they did have very similar claws to our present-day sloth. So they could not walk flat-footed like a lot of mammals there. So they actually had to kind of curl their toes around as they walked, just like our present-day anteaters. And a fun fact is, they say all those mega sloths are the main reason that we have avocados still today, because they were the most likely animal at that point to eat whole avocados and able to pass that big seed through their body, replanting seeds. Oh, we're in here now with our capybaras. So we do have two young males here that are about 6 months old. And the capybara is most famous for being the world's largest rodent. So some of these guys can get up to 150 pounds. So it puts them way ahead of their cousin the mouse. Capybaras are only found in South America. And these guys are semi-aquatic. They do spend lots and lots of time in and around the water. They have a lot of different things that help them live in and around the water. So first of all, the capybara is equipped with webbed feet. So it helps them swim around very well. They do have very coarse hair. A lot of people think they're going to be soft and fluffy. Not so. So the coarse hair will shed water much easily than a fluffy coat. Since they're in and out of the water so much, that helps them quite a bit. And then if you look at the shape of the capybara's head, everything is on the top plane of the head. You see the ears, the eyes, the nostrils, all along the top of the head. So they can go swim around for hours and hours with just that little bit sticking up above the water. Capybaras will dive under the water also. And they're going to hold their breath over 5 minutes under the water. So they will do that, especially if there's a big predator after them. Now, most of the predators in South America there are going to go after baby capybaras. Not too many there are going to go after a 150-pound animal. That's going to limit you to things like jaguars, maybe a really giant snake. But other animals will go after babies, such as the harpy eagle, ocelots, and other small South American cats. Now, the capybaras do live in a social group. It's usually a top male, a few other subordinate males, and then females with their babies. Now, these guys, when they do have babies, baby capybaras come in a litter, anywhere from 2 to 6 babies at a time. The mother will separate herself out from the rest of the group when it's time to have babies. And baby capybaras are born very precocial. And that means They're very quick to do things. They're very early to do things. So when a baby capybara is born, just minutes after birth, the baby's walking all over the place. The mother will take the babies back to meet the rest of the herd, as it's called, just hours after birth, and babies will start eating their solid foods by the time they're only 1 week old. Now these guys are plant eaters. A lot of the plants they eat are in and around the water. So they're gonna eat lots and lots of grasses, lots and lots of water plants. And these guys do poop in the water. It's a way of keeping predators from smelling where they are. And they do also recycle poop. So after it's gone through them the first time and they re-eat it, then they can digest some of those proteins and different things that they need the second time around. So these guys are also known for being very friendly with other species of animals. You'll see capybaras hanging out with turtles, ducks, even some of the reptiles that live in the water. But even though they are very fond of living with other species, they're not too fond of new capybaras that don't belong in their family unit. They'll definitely chase those animals away. So it's fun to have the world's largest rodent living here. Like I said, these guys are only about 6 months old, so they're probably going to at least double in size that they are right now. We are in with the red kangaroos. So the red kangaroo is a very remarkable animal. They are the world's largest marsupial. So there's many different species of kangaroos, wallaroos, wallabies, but the red kangaroo is the world's largest. So a big male red, sometimes called boomers, can reach 6 feet tall and 200 pounds. Now the females, sometimes referred to as flyers or blue flyers, much, much smaller than a male and different color. They're more of a bluish gray instead of this distinctive rusty red color. So a marsupial is going to be any animal that has a very short pregnancy, gives birth to a very premature baby, and the baby finishes developing in the mother's pouch. So in the case of the red kangaroo, mommy kangaroos will only be pregnant for 30 days. After 30 days, they're going to give birth to a baby that is only the size of a jelly bean. Now when that little baby is born, it is very underdeveloped. They have no hair at all. Their eyes are totally sealed over, and their back legs are not even formed yet. So the baby, at that point, has to use just its forelimbs to crawl all the way up the outside of mom's belly and into her pouch by itself. So mom can't do much to help at all. The only thing she'll do to help is she'll sit very still while that baby makes that precarious journey. Sometimes she will lick a scent trail for that baby to follow, but she cannot pick it up and just stick it in her pouch. Now once that baby makes its way into the pouch, it then has to find a nipple. It will become attached to that because at that point it doesn't nurse on its own yet. Mom will actually pump milk into the baby's body for a while longer until it's more developed. So once it's starting to get milk, it of course will grow, develop. Hair will grow on it, the eyes will open, the legs and the tails will form completely. And at that point, the baby will start to poke its head out of mommy's pouch and take a look around. A little bit older yet, and the baby will jump in and out of mom's pouch. So they might jump out of her pouch, take a little exercise, get a little grass to eat, but they're still going to want to get into mom's pouch a while longer for both milk and protection. So when a baby wants to get back into their mother's pouch, I personally think they are a little rude to their mom. So they'll walk up to her, give her pouch a little pull out, and just take a nosedive right back in there. Now this remarkable animal can actually have 3 different age babies at the same time that they're caring for. So she could have that older one that's hopping in and out of her pouch. She could have a younger one that has entered the pouch more recently. And she will actually produce 2 separate types of milk for each baby's different needs. Now, if she gets rebred for baby number 3, there's only room for 2 babies in the mom's pouch. There's only 2 nipples in there. So that new baby, what she will do is she will go into what's called embryonic diapause, which means the new embryo in her womb will only grow to about 100 cells, and then it just stops. Gets put on pause, just hangs out there in that state, just waiting for a vacancy in the pouch to happen, and then it will continue to develop again. So the red kangaroo is found throughout most all of Australia. They're typically mostly a grass eater. They will eat some leaves and some other things once in a while, but typically a grazing animal that eats grass. They do live in a large group called a mob. Now, a mob will travel around wherever the grass is best to eat. And big males, or boomers, sometimes will fight each other over girlfriends. Now, what they typically do is, first of all, they will stand up big and tall. They will show the other male how big and strong they look. They'll kind of rest back on their tail, and they might start out just kind of slapping one another a little bit with the smaller front legs. If it really gets serious, then they rock back on that big thick tail and they really kick one another with their big back legs. Now, the big back legs are great for hopping at high rates of speed. That is their main form of self-defense for predators. So a kangaroo can hop at almost 40 miles per hour. They can hop 6 feet straight up in the air and about 20 foot from one spot to the next. Now, if an animal's chasing them, that's what they do. They do have one other thing they will use occasionally. So believe it or not, this animal can also swim. So when that animal is chasing them, if there's a body of water close by, the kangaroo will go out into the water where it's deep enough where if that predator follows them in, they will take a big jump up, land on top of them, and drown them. Not a whole lot of predators for the kangaroos in Australia, though. The main one is just dingoes, the wild dogs of Australia. Other than that, they're pretty predator-free. So these unique animals are quite abundant in Australia. They are found throughout most of the country, and they're found pretty much like our deer are in this country here. So some people love them, some people think they're a pest. We think they're pretty cool here. There we're hanging out right now with the ring-tailed lemurs. Now these beautiful animals come from Madagascar. So the ring-tailed lemur is an endangered species also. These guys are fun. So these guys are probably the most recognizable of all the different species of lemurs. There's over 100 different species of lemurs, and all of them only come from Madagascar. So Madagascar is an island off of the coast of Africa that's separated from the continent quite a long time ago. And so all those animals are very unique just to that one place. There's also a lot of growth there, a lot of habitat destruction, so all 100 plus species are endangered right now. The ring-tailed lemur is considered a prosimian. So a prosimian is a more primitive form of primate than the rest of the monkeys and apes. So they don't consider them quite as intelligent. They have more of a foxy looking face than some of the other monkeys do. But these guys are mostly fruit eaters. They will eat some other plant life, but fruit is going to be the main source of their food. So these guys will feed both in the trees and on the ground. They're going to sleep every night up in the trees for safety, but they will be on the ground and in the trees both ways. So they use this very distinct black and white striped tail for flags when they do travel on the ground. So when the whole troop will travel on the ground, they all have their tails straight up in the air so they can follow their tails, especially through tall grasses. Now they are going to live in what's called a troop, and a troop is a family unit. Now a family unit of lemurs, however, is going to be run by the females. So the females are the boss of the troop. So everybody follows them. They kind of go show them where they're going to eat, what they're going to do for the day, all kinds of things. But on the other hand, if a troop of lemurs will fight another troop of lemurs, the main ones going to fight are also going to be the girls. And it does not matter if that girl has a new little baby hanging on her back. She takes that baby right into battle with her. She does not leave it home alone for the boys to take care of. Now, when girls fight, lemurs do have very sharp little teeth, very sharp little fingernails, and they're going to use them on one another. Now, boys or males will fight each other over girls sometimes, but boys have a very different way of fighting than girls do. So they're not going to use their teeth and their claws. What they do is they take that big, long bottle brush tail of theirs. They have scent glands, and they will rub that tail all through their scent glands, get it nice and stinky, and then they sit around and they have a stink fight by flicking their tails at one another. They have a lot of different vocalizations they use. So they use one to greet each other. They use another one when they're happy or talking to another one, and they also have a very loud alarm call. So on the island of Madagascar, not a huge list of predators, but there's a few for these guys. So they have an unusual animal there called the fossa. So the fossa is about the only animal that will hunt them there by land. Otherwise, they do have large eagles there, birds of prey that will prey upon these guys. These guys love to wake up in the morning and sun themselves. It's very amusing because the first thing they do when they wake up in the morning is they go out, they stretch their arms out, they do their little yoga poses, and they just soak up the sun after the night of sleep.